all involved in the drama at the first corner. That wouldn't be the last incident that Jorge Martin will be involved in the sprint, but it was this incident that saw him handed a long lap penalty. So if his job wasn't difficult enough today, starting from 12th on the grid, Jorge Martin will have to do that. In addition to a long lap penalty, he practiced it this morning and actually hit the deck as he did so. Marco
Bezzecchi around the outside, then he got a whack on the right shoulder from Maverick Vinales' handlebar, and then a big whack on his left shoulder. He slammed onto the tarmac, a bit battered, a bit bruised, but still optimistic and confident that he's got a big part to play in the outcome of this Austrian Grand Prix. He was kicking himself, really. He said that he shouldn't have really been in that position to be caught up in all the early drama. It was an exceeding track limits late on in Q2, which left him in 7th place on the grid. A young man who adores the Red Bull Ring here in Spielberg, 3 times a winner in the smaller classes, including a last lap battle with Jorge Martin, who was the instigator of all that chaos. Bezzecchi, one of several riders who was pretty vocal and pretty obvious who he blamed in that incident yesterday, as we get the traditional and the spectacular Red Bull aerial display. What a shot that is. Nearby is the Red Bull airfield, and they always put on a great aerial show. Who's going to be flying high at the end of the 28-lap Austrian Grand Prix? Pecco Bagnaia, the sprint winner yesterday, 46 points clear in the World Championship. A great start, a dream start for him, saw him avoid all that early carnage. One man who wasn't able to negotiate his way through that tricky first corner was Fabio Quartararo, though somehow he stayed on board that factory Yamaha. Although later on there was drama for the ex-world champion, because this moment into turn 4, a little rub, a nudge on Aprilia test rider Lorenzo Savadori, meant that Fabio Quartararo did get to serve a long lap penalty, which resulted in him seeing the checker flag 15th at the end of the Tissot sprint.
Yeah, from Fabio Quartararo's point of view, the damage had already been done long before he received a long lap penalty in the sprint yesterday. It's been an improved weekend, I think it's fair to say, for Fabio Quartararo this weekend. Qualified on the 3rd row of the grid, and it looked for a little part of Q2 as if he was going to start a little bit higher up the grid than that. Unfortunately, as we saw, he was in the heart of that turn 1 melee. His pace was reasonably good from that point on, and Quartararo will be looking to try and move forward from 9th, but of course he's surrounded by Ducatis, KTMs and Aprilias, who will be very difficult to beat.
Jack Miller said yesterday, not a good day, not a bad day, just today. That's how he described his Saturday afternoon here at Silverstone at Spielberg. Just saw there former KTM tech boss Mike Leitner just offer some words of encouragement. I believe Mike's still a consultant behind the scenes with KTM. KTM test rider, managed done so much of the legwork to get the RC16 into a consistent front-running motorcycle. Mika Kallio on the left-hand side there, former stalwart in 125s and 250s. Jack, we would like to drink our beers out of your boots tonight. Well, I'm sure he will oblige if he finishes on the podium.
I'm sure Jack would like to drink some Prosecco out of them.
He really would. He's famous, isn't he, for the shoey post-race. He goes around his entire backroom staff here. Just some late words of encouragement. Such a great team player. What an asset Jack Miller has been to KTM. They've kicked on with his arrival, bringing some knowledge and experience from the current dominating motorcycling MotoGP Ducati. Also moving over, of course, into KTM with his crew chief, Christian Pupelin. Alberto Girabiola also made that switch from KTM to Ducati, as well as we look at the 18-metre high Red Bull. You always know you're in this part of the world when you see the Red Bull, when you see the planes overhead. It can mean only one thing. It's race day at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. Pecco Bagnaia, as we mentioned then, starting from pole position. Yesterday, his victory in the sprint was his 14th podium of the season so far. His 4th sprint win as well. 5th pole position of the year for the 26-year-old Italian. His win here last year in the feature race made him only the 2nd Ducati rider in history to win 3 in a row, of course, following Aussie legend Casey Stoner. All the smart money seems to be going on the Italian to successfully defend his Austrian Grand Prix crown, but as we've seen already today, shocks are plenty in Spielberg.
Well, how good was this guy yesterday? Pol Espargaro finished in 6th place, of course, assisted by the drama at the start, but his pace following that was fantastic. You might be able to hear the conversations here with Hervé Poncharal. We'll just stay quiet so you can hear this.
What you did, you're a hero. You're a hero.
You are a hero, said Hervé Poncharal, and we are certainly not going to argue with that. A 6th place finish for Pol on just his 2nd sprint of 2023, of course, after the horrendous injury sustained back at Portimao. He's certainly proving that he's got plenty to offer still in MotoGP, with all the talk of him potentially making way with the musical chairs in the KTM factory for next season. One line on his race today, though. He did qualify in 13th place yesterday, but he will drop 3 places on the grid after getting in Marc Marquez's way during practice on Friday afternoon. Yeah,
awesome job that, wasn't it, by Pol Espargaro. Great to see him back at the sharp end in MotoGP. One of the most demanding circuits on the calendar in terms of heavy braking points, particularly up the hill into the first corner, up the hill into turn 3, down the hill into turn 4. They have to run those high mastiffs, don't they, here for the extreme cooling. Brembo getting one of the most severe examinations of the season. Over 30 seconds of the lap the riders in MotoGP spend braking, which is over a third of the lap. It is a real tough test, and of course in the hot conditions, 30 degrees ambient temperature, front tyre temperature and front tyre pressure will be a big factor in this 28 lap Grand Prix. Going to take something special, not this man out of his stride though, the reigning world champion, looking well set to successfully defend that #1 plate. 46 points clear he is then coming into this Crypto Data Grand Prix of Austria. And at the moment on Sundays, he's been the star man. 90 of the last 100 points available on Sundays have been taken by Bagnaia. 1st or 2nd in the last 4. This was the moment where he dominated the sprint yesterday over 14 laps. I think Brad Binder and KTM probably felt like they had something a little bit more for the Ducati, but just too good an acceleration. The KTM perhaps having a few too many wheel spin issues as they come out of those low gear corners. But Brad Binder just bowed to the superior man, just said Pecco Bagnaia was flawless, he was faultless, no mistakes, clean as a whistle, and it was a dominant performance to take his 4th sprint win of the season so far, cashing in once again, isn't he, on Saturday afternoons.
And the nature of the sprint, of course, means that Pecco Bagnaia was able to go gangbusters from the start and push to his absolute limit. No concerns about tyre conservation in the sprint yesterday. A very different challenge faces the riders today, though. Over 28 laps of this Austrian Grand Prix. Pecco Bagnaia and Brad Binder both said yesterday that there might be a little bit more saving going on in the Grand Prix this afternoon. They might not be able to push from the start, so they'll need to make sure in these hot conditions that they have some tyre left at the end of our 28-lap Austrian Grand Prix.
It's the riders that always take the individual glory and the plaudits, but behind the scenes there are so many people that are doing such vitally important work, invaluable work, to put their motorcycles at the sharp end in MotoGP. One of those, man, I'm delighted to say, one of those people is Kurt Treve, engine designer of KTM. What a job he and his team have done, and he is down in pit lane with Simon.
He is, and it's a real honour for me because I mean, what Kurt has achieved, and we don't always get to talk to the engineers behind the scene. I've had a little taste by visiting the factory and seeing Kurt have a MotoGP KTM on a dyno running through laps of Mugello, and it was emotional. It's so amazing to see an engine tortured like that and replicating laps. And now, you know, not only today dominated with your engine in the Moto3 race, but from the outside it looks like your engine, Kurt, now is as fast as the famous red bikes from Bologna. Please give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we came from very far, Moto3 and MotoGP. I think MotoGP, we always had a good and reliable engine, and now everything seems to fit together. So we are ready, let's say.
But MotoGP, give us your thoughts on what you've achieved, especially from last year, the last 12 months.
I mean, perhaps for me it was details, but details which made the difference. And as I said before, everything works together much better now. So electronics, bike and engine.
And I have to poke you a little bit, if you can answer these details. Is it more on the performance side or more on the rideability side?
I would say it's rideability side, but we've been lucky to find some extra horsepower too. So.
Kurt, honour to get to chat to you. I have to say, best of luck this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to KTM engine guru Kurt Treed. Then, as you mentioned, he and his team behind the scenes in Mattinghoff, and what a job they have done. Enough to convince Brad Binder to sign a contract extension. Big breaking news yesterday morning. Binder signing up for 2025 and 2026 with KTM. Headlines off the track for the South African. This young man was making headlines all around the world for the right and the wrong reasons in many respects yesterday. This was the second big talking point of that 14-lap sprint. Having already been involved in the chaos at the first corner, this was the contact going into the chain with Luca Marini. And this was a reaction from Mooney VR46 team boss Valentino Rossi, who'd already seen Marco Bezzecchi go down and out in the first corner. And then it's brother Luca Marini, who also gets nudged out. There was no penalty, though, on that occasion for Jorge Martin. He said in his defence he had the inside line, felt he was ahead of Marini going into that chicane. Unfortunately, Marini, his right elbow just clipping the left foot peg of Martin's Ducati, and down Marini went. No points in the sprint then for Mooney VR46, not what they were expecting. And we certainly expected much, much more, Lewis, from this man, Maverick Vinales, who's all smiles, but 8th place in the sprint. An astonishing fight back. To his credit, he came from last to 8th in just 14 laps, but from second on the grid and having such amazing pace all weekend, it just felt like a bit of a letdown.
It felt like a missed opportunity, didn't it, for Maverick Vinales, who said that he felt he had the pace for second place at least yesterday to challenge Pecco Bagnaia. It all went wrong in the first 100 metres. A terrible start for Maverick Vinales, who did his best, I have to say, yesterday to try and explain it away and say that it wasn't really his problem. He said that that was the maximum I could have done with this clutch. I have to say, from our point of view, it looked slightly different than that. It was such a poor getaway. Surely there was something else going on. But in any case, Maverick Vinales does have a second opportunity this afternoon to get off the line a little bit better and give himself the best possible opportunity to challenge for a podium, because it does appear that he and that Aprilia have podium pace.
We just saw there some of the new look aero fitted to the Hondas here this weekend. Marc Marquez's 93 Repsol Honda, the new front wings, the sort of duckbill aero addition to the rear seat unit. And talking of new look motorcycles here in Austria, we just saw there, didn't we, while Simon was having a chat with Kurt Treed. You're not going to miss them in this Austrian Grand Prix. Keep an eye out, not that you need to, for Ralph Fernandez and Miguel Oliveira, because they have a very, very distinctive, special, unique Barbie livery. A one-off in the Grand Prix here. Title sponsor, of course, Crypto Data. As we mentioned, they're going to be very easy to spot, Oliveira. All the homage to the current Hollywood blockbuster special.
Right on cue.
Here it is, right on cue. As we mentioned, it's very, very distinctive.
More of an Oppenheimer man myself, to be honest, but in any case, you're not going to miss the RNF Aprilias off the line. And Miguel Oliveira will be hoping that some good luck from behind heads his way this time, after more ill fortune yesterday.
I know my daughter's been to see the Barbie film. She said it was brilliant, but not really my cup of tea at my ripe old age. But hey-ho. The Barbie livery then for Miguel Oliveira and for Ralph Fernandez. Oliveira's been a trouble magnet, hasn't he? Taken out in Portimao, in Jerez and here. Valentino Rossi then looks on. Always great to have the doctor back with us. The 9 times world champion, the legend, the icon. The better fortunes lie ahead for Rossi's camp today, after Marini and Bezzecchi both DNF'd in somewhat controversial circumstance, I think it's fair to say, in yesterday's Tissot sprint. He may have stepped away from racing, two-wheeled racing at least, Valentino Rossi, 2 years ago, an announcement he made here in Austria in 2021. But when you come through the gates, when you see the merchandise that the fans are wearing, there's still an awful lot of affection and love, an awful lot of yellow 46 caps and T-shirts, which are still filling the grandstands. And Valentino Rossi, of course, now still in love with motorsport and doing a pretty good job on 4 wheels too.
He took a victory at Misano, didn't he, during the summer break while we were off on our holidays in MotoGP. So Valentino Rossi, whether he's on 2 wheels or 4, just cannot resist that winning feeling. You can hear the atmosphere building up here at the Red Bull Ring. A bumper crowd here on this Sunday afternoon. You can see the flags waving in the grandstand. You can see the red and white flags of the Austrian colours, the green and white flags as well of the region of Spielberg.
There's a DJ above the podium
Yes.
here who's doing an absolutely phenomenal job of whipping up this atmosphere and building the fans into a frenzy. There's, of course, allegiance to Zarco and Fabio Quartararo. What a special atmosphere this here is in Spielberg. There's proof of the army of Valentino Rossi fans that are here today. I'm sure they've tried to catch a glimpse of their hero. He's been trackside, a very interested spectator throughout this weekend. Jorge Martin then heads out on circuit for this sighting lap. He'll be certainly looking for a somewhat less eventful and dramatic day that he had yesterday. As Lewis mentioned just a few moments ago, if he joined us for that 10-minute warm session this morning, Jorge Martin's first of 3 trips into that long lap penalty loop at the top of the hill into first corner ended in near disaster. He crashed out and bike and rider went sliding across the circuit. Pretty scary moment that was for Johan Zarco, for Jorge Martin rather. Let's go down to pit lane, of course. This is going to be a long, tough race, particularly for Michelin tyres. They have to bring in a special hard casing here for the hard acceleration zones and the temperature that this Red Bull Ring circuit generates. And let's get some pre-Grand Prix thoughts from Michelin Motorsport manager Piero Taramasso, who's with Simon.
Yes, Piero, really interested to hear your thoughts, not only on rider tyre choice, but why and what the difficulties are at this circuit. I know it's brutal, like Thailand on rear tyre temperature.
Yes, this track layout is very demanding on tyre, front and rear. That's why the riders for the long race today, they will go with the hard front and medium rear. Those are the most harder tyre we have because it's very hot, 49 degrees. Like you said, long straight, high speed, a lot of weight on the rear tire, a lot of load in the front when they brake. So everything will give a lot of stress in the tire. So this is the best solution, hard and medium. Maybe 1 or 2 riders starting in the back, they will try with the soft, but it's a big gamble.
One other thing, I've been obviously hearing about tyre temperature, if you follow here, can be really tricky on the front. But also, I've been hearing about, with this new aero, that they get more spin trying to push the air. Can you comment on that?
Yes, here the track layout, as I said, is very demanding, but also the biker, they go very fast. They have a lot of aerodynamics, the ride height device. They put a lot of load in the tire, front and rear. And for that reason, we have a special construction here on the rear. It's different than the standard one. It's a little bit stronger, and that helps to keep the temperature down about 10 degrees less compared to the standard one. And this is help for for the tire to do the race distance.
Thank you, Piero.
Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Piero Taramasso. Will anybody at the back maybe take a punt? You do feel, though, these hot conditions, 30 degrees ambient temperature, with the braking forces, the stress on the rear tyre, as Piero Taramasso points to, no great surprise. His feeling is that probably every rider will go for the hard front, medium rear tyre. We can see all the riders as they were in the Tissot Sprint yesterday in fuel-saving mode. A very thirsty circuit with all the on-off throttle points around this 4.34 kilometre Red Bull Ring circuit. We just saw that, didn't we? That was an interesting pitch. I'd love to have dropped a microphone under the nose there of Lynn Jarvis and Alex Rins. Of course, they'll be working in tandem closely together next year. Great to see Rins back here in the paddock this weekend. Of course, still very much part of LCR Honda, but recently confirming he'll join Fabio Quartararo in that factory Yamaha team next season. Still no firm return date for Rins while he recovers from that serious double right leg break from the Mugello Grand Prix in Italy. The bones seem to be consolidating and healing nicely. The problem is some nerve damage, and of course when it's nerves, muscles, tendons, it's very, very accurate, very difficult to predict when you can make a return. So we wish Alex the best in his continued rehabilitation, and we hope to see him back out on circuit very, very soon. But interesting there, having a little chat with his future paymaster.
Yeah, we're going to see them working together next season, and a lot of people think that Alex Rins is going to gel quite nicely with that Yamaha M1, but that's a discussion for 2024. What will be going through the mind of Brad Binder then this afternoon? As he said to us earlier on in the weekend, given that there is no South African Grand Prix, this is the closest thing Brad Binder has to a home Grand Prix. And of course, he's got plenty of KTM support resting on his shoulders this afternoon. And can Brad Binder get one of his and KTM's customary lightning starts to give Pecco Bagnaia something to think about?
Well, we've just spoken about Yamaha and their future, with Lynn Jarvis having a chat with their 2024 rider Alex Rins. What about today, though, in the present? How are the Fabio Quartararo and Frankie Morbidelli shaping up for this Austrian Grand Prix? Let's get some thoughts from Monster Energy Yamaha team boss Mario Meregali, who's with Simon.
Yes, Mayo, we'd love your thoughts on a few things. It's another reasonably tough weekend so far. It looks like Fabio's doing a magic job in the braking area. Yamaha are working. You have a new aero here. He said that is a positive step. Please give us your thoughts.
The steps are positive. Unfortunately, are a leader step. But since we introduced the new aero package, we didn't get any bad, only good. The bike is wheeling less, it's turning a little bit better. So for sure, we discovered a path that is good. And as you know, here is a stop-and-go track, and we are always performing well in braking. Maybe now is one of the last good points that Yamaha has. It will be very important, as always, to start well and to try to get out of the first corner without issues.
And one other thing, front tyre temperature. Is it a big worry this afternoon for you?
Yeah, it might be. We never ride in these days in this hot. So far, we could manage quite well, but also not only the tire, but also the brake system. Yesterday was quite hot. And anyway, we work, and we should be able to manage.
Thank you, Mayo. Best of luck.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Mario Meregali. Not a traditionally happy hunting ground, is it, Yamaha? This Red Bull Ring circuit. They've only had 4 podiums since we came back here in 2016. 3 of them have been taken by Fabio Quartararo. What a helicopter shot that was. The rugged alpine terrain that surrounds this Red Bull Ring circuit here in Spielberg. Just caught a glimpse there of former Suzuki team manager, former Yamaha team manager Davide Brivio on the grid as well, as we look at Miguel Oliveira. He's very easy to spot in this race that's coming up, because he's got the special Barbie livery.
The cooling vest goes on. Certainly need that in these kind of conditions, the hottest conditions of the weekend, where it's touching the 30s now in terms of air temperature. There is Davide Brivio right on cue, showing a word with one of his former sparring partners, Davide Tardotti.
Of course, Davide Brivio, instrumental in convincing Valentino Rossi to leave Honda to join Yamaha in 2004. That was a real shift in the balance of power, wasn't it, in MotoGP back in the days? And then he moved to the factory Suzuki team and steered the Hamamatsu factory in Joan Mir to glory in 2020. Of course, still very much part of the Alpine team over in the Formula One paddock. Joan Mir then, a really tough switch over to Repsol Honda. A rather revealing and frank interview he gave the media pre-weekend here in Austria, saying his woes on the RC213 had got him down so much, mentally destroyed. He said he was, that even at the age of 25, with so many good years potentially ahead of him, he thought and contemplated retirement. A dark place at times when things are going against you on a competitive motorcycle. He's digging down though. It seems like he's in it for the long haul. Says he's saying the right things, at least in public, Lewis. How he supports Honda, believes they are going to get themselves out of this rut. At least Mir saw a checkered flag though yesterday in the sprint, because they have been few and far between.
Certainly have. Joan Mir got to the flag in 12th in the end, 2 places behind his teammate Marc Marquez, who Mir actually out-qualified on Saturday morning. Mir starts this Grand Prix from 15th, Marc Marquez from 18th place. And for Joan Mir, it's just all about building up that confidence once again. Of course, an interrupted 2023 season means he's not really been able to get into any kind of rhythm really through the season, and he hasn't scored any points since the very first Sunday of the season in Portimao. That'll be a run that Joan Mir will be very keen to end.
baking hot conditions, hottest condition of the weekend so far, and seeking some shelter, seeking some shade under the main grandstand here. Johan Zarco, we just saw there, and Aleix Espargaro trying to keep themselves cool. This is going to be a mentally and physically grueling 28 laps. Such a test of your upper body as well, with all the hard braking zones, test of your concentration. Johan Zarco, well, we are told today by the man himself that we should know where his seat will be in 2024. A firm 2-year contract offer with LCR Honda, with the option of 2026 as well. Still seems like the doors are ajar for him to remain with Ducati. All should come out though this evening. Johan Zarco says that he wants a decision made today about whether he will be moving over to LCR Honda, which could then open the door for Frankie Morbidelli to move into Pramac Ducati, with it all pointing towards Marco Bezzecchi staying with Mini VR46. The persuasive powers of the boss convincing him to stay put.
Yeah, when your absolute all-time hero just so happens to be your employer, gives you some advice and suggestions, you can understand why Marco Bezzecchi would be quite keen to follow those instructions. But of course we'll see what happens as we go through the next couple of weeks. No Alex Rins, unfortunately, on the grid this weekend as he continues his recovery from injury. He's on the grid, he's not unfortunately racing, but he is talking to Simon Crafar. Simon, down to you.
Yes, he is, and I'm not going to bother Alex about his injuries. We've had a lot of that on the weekend, but Alex, I would like to pick your brains with this opportunity about this race. You know, there's a lot of challenges that I can see people talking about, the rear spinning, the front overheating, tyre-wise. Let us know what your thoughts are. What are the challenges as Alex shakes the hand of the legend Giacomo Agostini?
Well, for sure, hi everybody. For sure it's going to be a long race with all these warm conditions, all these degrees on the tarmac. Let's see. I think they are going with the same tires, everybody. But I think the surprise is going to be for Marc, that I think he's going to use the soft rear. So let's see how it goes. For me, I will push for the Honda. Let's charge them.
So, just one other thing, how difficult is it for these riders to manage that, especially front tyre temperature in the fight?
It's not easy. It's not easy because during the fight, the temperature and the pressure goes up, and it's a little bit difficult. But they are machines.
Hey, Alex, great to see you. Great to hear you. Best of luck. We look forward to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic to hear from Alex Rins. As we mentioned, there are nearly 94,000 fans that have come to this Austrian Grand Prix today here in Spielberg. The bike parks are full, the campsites have been overloaded since Wednesday night. You have to drive right past the main campsites out the main entrance here at the Red Bull Ring, and fair to say it's been pretty lively. They've certainly not had a good time in this part of Austria. Maverick Vinales then, well, yesterday his victory hopes in the sprint had gone within milliseconds of the lights going out as he plummeted back down the field. Marco Bezzecchi, Luca Marini, Alex Marquez quickly through on Vinales, and of course that plummet back just put him right front, right and centre for all the chaos that unveiled. Let's go quickly back down to the grid for Simon. I'm sure Pablo Nieto and Mini VR46 praying that they have a better Sunday than what they did on Saturday here in Spielberg. Let's hear the thoughts of Pablo and Simon.
Pablo, going into yesterday's sprint, even though Bez was a row or two back, I really felt he had the pace to be there in the race. So we never got to find out. He never got the practice of that, you know, to help today. I really want to know, do you think that he can run at the front?
I want to see it too. If I tell you the truth, I think we make a very good weekend until yesterday in the sprint race. During all the practice, qualifying and everything, he was really, really fast. I think we make a small mistake because now if you are in the third row, I think it's on the limit to try to fight for the race. But anyway, you never know with Marco. I think he's a fantastic rider. Yesterday, unfortunately, we didn't see any lap because he made the incident in the first corner. But anyway, we will see what happens here.
Pablo, thank you for your time. Good luck today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Pablo Nieto. Here comes Luca Marini then, to the back of the second row in 6th place. Well, he just said it's difficult to win a MotoGP race from the third row. Not easy for Marco Bezzecchi in 7th. Well, let's just go back 2 weeks. Alexis Spargaro won the British Grand Prix from 12th on the grid. The win from the lowest grid position is Marco Melandri, won from 14th at the Istanbul Park in Turkey 17 years ago, back in 2006. Temperature is on the increase. You can just sense that there's a few nerves jangling down there on the grid ahead of a journey into the unknown here. Twice the race distance from that sprint yesterday. Pecco Bagnaia in deep discussion there with his crew chief, Christian Gabarini. Interesting there, some observations from Alex Rins, Lewis. We heard Michelin boss Piero Taramato say some riders at the back of the grid may well take the punt on the soft rear, and Alex Rins kind of hinting there that Marc Marquez may be one of those riders that will punt for the soft rear. Nothing to lose, I guess, for Marc.
Nothing to lose, and Marc Marquez's approach seemingly at the moment is much more a data gathering exercise than a pursuit of World Championship points. Of course, we keep repeating this, and we keep repeating it because it remains the case that Marc Marquez has not scored a point on a Sunday since the Malaysian Grand Prix last season. So Marc Marquez will be keen to change that this afternoon. This is one of the few circuits on the calendar that Marc Marquez has never won at. I don't think he's going to be changing that from 18th on the grid. His third worst qualifying as a MotoGP rider.
So we're all getting set then for the traditional pre-race grid ceremony. Always a special one here at the Red Bull Ring. Valentino Rossi, there he is then on the pit wall, getting ready for what he hopes will be a better Sunday for Marini and Bezzecchi. He'll have his confidence as well that Pecco Bagnaia can maybe extend that 46-point lead in the World Championship. But we'll pause and soak up the special pre-race grid ceremony coming here at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg, with all eyes, home hopes carried by that man Brad Binder.
Rock and roll at the Red Bull Ring. What an atmosphere and what a Grand Prix in store for us. And will the home Austrian fans have KTM success to cheer for at the end of 28 laps? Let's get an idea of what they can expect from the KTMs. Francesco Guidotti is on the grid with Simon.
Yeah, Francesco, please give us your thoughts going into this one. I've traditionally seen that your team and rider can make a step each day, any time, and it only needs to be a small one to be able to cause some problems for Pecco. Do you think that can happen today?
Today is even more difficult than yesterday. Condition will be even more slippery for sure with this temperature and races before. So the rider has to find his own feeling and try to understand how much they are allowed to push and to manage also the tire for the end of the race. So it's most of the things are in the hand of the riders, not having any more long warm-up in the morning, only 10 minutes with different conditions. It's more and more in the hand of the riders during the race weekend.
I saw you experimenting. I saw you experimenting in morning warm-up with different bike settings, especially on Jack's side. I saw stuff that I haven't seen all year. Did it make a difference?
Yeah, as I said, he felt something, but the condition is completely different, the morning to the afternoon. So he's the one who struggled a little bit more yesterday. So yeah, we take this kind of risk.
Francesco, best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Francesco Guidotti. Just the second front row start of his 62 race Premier Class career then for Brad Binder. His first in the dry, second in yesterday's Tissot Sprint. We'll never forget, will we, 2021 here when it rained 4 or 5 laps from the end of that Austrian Grand Prix. And Brad Binder rolled the dice, took one of the biggest gambles you'll ever see, stayed out on slick tyres and somehow tiptoed his way around this Spielberg circuit to win in truly dramatic fashion. And let's quickly pop back down to Simon. Simon, we heard from Alex Rins in your conversation with him say that Marc Marquez may take a bit of a punt on the soft rear. I guess you can understand that from where Marc is on the grid.
Yeah, not just that, it's that at the moment, in recent times, the Honda has struggled with the rear grip, whether it's entry or exit, drive. And the softer tyre with a bit more grip repairs that, does a good job of giving it a step forward. And that's the reason I think he's doing it, just purely to be able to do something. As soon as he put the harder one in, you got so much spin. One other thing, he was the one yesterday that mentioned with this new aero, it works, but it's such a wall of air to push for the engine. It doesn't just slow the engine down like everyone's been saying, it makes the rear spin more because it's like pushing against it. So I think that's all the reasons why he's going that way.
Thanks for that, Simon. Of course, yeah, Marc Marquez very much in sort of data gathering mode, isn't he, right now for Honda as they try to steer themselves out of the doldrums. There you can see the race distance under the tower over the grid, 28 laps. What an atmosphere. What a privilege it is to be part of this Red Bull Ring Grand Prix here in Austria. They always put on a spectacular show here in Spielberg. The white and red flags of the Austrian national flag being waved proudly. We certainly can hear in our headsets, I'm sure you can hear at home as well, the resident DJ above the podium. Absolutely phenomenal job about building up the pre-race atmosphere here. It feels like you're at a concert at Wembley Stadium or somewhere in South America. Absolutely electric atmosphere there as we continue to build up towards the start of this Crypto Data Grand Prix of Austria. Up goes the 3-minute board. BMW safety car peels away into the first corner. The safety car goes. Is there going to be more drama, more chaos in that tight, tricky right-hander to kick off the Grand Prix of Austria? There certainly was yesterday in that 14-lap Tissot Sprint. That's the reason why the man who was on the podium yesterday, 12th on the grid, Jorge Martin, will have to make an excursion through the long lap. Pecco Bagnaia then looking the epitome of ice cool. Your front row then of the grid for this 28-lap Grand Prix of Austria. Just his second front row start, second in the sprint yesterday. Does more home glory beckon for KTM and Brad Binder. Middle of the front row. First front row start in well over a year for Aprilia's Maverick Viñales. But can Ducati domination continue here in Spielberg as Pecco Bagnaia fires away from pole position?